Under the fading light of a star struggling to pierce the dense cloud cover, Hugo de Payens, his face etched with the weariness of relentless conflict and unwavering faith, gathered his 9 knights around a small fire. The flickering flames danced in their tired eyes, illuminating the helmets and weapons resting nearby. That day, they had once again repelled an attack by bandits who had coveted their meager spoils, a few sacks of gifts from pilgrims. But this was a mere trifle compared to the monumental mission they bore, the protection of pilgrims journeying to the Holy Land. Hugo, acutely aware of the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, recounted a vision that had visited him the previous night. In it, he saw not merely the safeguarding of pilgrims, but the creation of a new order, powerful and unshakable, an order that would stand as a shield for Christianity in the Holy Land and an exemplar of chivalric honor. He spoke of the rules that would govern their order, of poverty, humility, and unwavering devotion to the Church. The knights listened intently, their hearts resonating with his words. They were weary, hungry, but their faith remained unyielding. The following months became a crucible of trials and formation. De Payens, with unwavering determination, approached King Baldwin II of Jerusalem, seeking his support. The king, impressed by their devotion and combat skills, granted them a small estate on the outskirts of Jerusalem, where they established their first residence. It was humble, yet it symbolized their new, shared purpose. News of the bravery and righteousness of these new knights spread like wildfire. They not only protected pilgrims but also participated in battles against the Muslims, demonstrating their mastery in combat. Their order expanded, attracting new knights drawn to the ideal of serving God and their fellow man. De Payens developed a rigorous training system based on religious asceticism and impeccable weapons proficiency. The Knights Templar, as they came to be known, were distinguished not only by their fighting prowess but also by their discipline and organization. They functioned like a well-oiled machine, each component fulfilling its precise role. In time, their influence extended far beyond the Holy Land. Lavish donations from kings, aristocrats, and commoners poured into the order's treasury, amassing vast sums. This enabled the Templars to construct fortresses, develop their own estates, and finance military campaigns. They became a significant political force, influencing events in Europe and the Near East. However, it was their very wealth and political power that would eventually lead to their downfall. Gossip and envy proliferated like weeds after a spring rain, even among those closest to them. Rumors circulated about secret rituals, connections with heretics, and a conspiracy against the church itself. These were mere fabrications, spread by enemies envious of the order's influence and wealth. But the seeds of suspicion had been sown, and they began to sprout, growing into a dangerous and poisonous vine. Hugo de Payens, understanding the gravity of the situation, exerted every effort to shield his order from slander and intrigue. But he did not know that the greatest danger lurked not on the battlefields of the Holy Land, but in the shadows of European courts. He faced a battle not for land, but for the very survival of the order, for its existence, its history only just beginning to be written. Thus, the spring of 1118. The hills around Jerusalem still bore the damp scent of winter rains, yet the air already trembled with the heat promising summer. Golgotha, the site of Christ's crucifixion, stood silent, observing a new generation of pilgrims arriving at the holy city. Among them were 9 knights, their sun and wind-beaten faces concealing a resolute determination. Led by the noble and experienced Hugo de Payens, they were not merely pilgrims. Their hearts burned not only with religious zeal but also with the desire to protect the precarious Christian kingdom in the Holy Land. Their order, born from the ashes of the Crusades, had no name, no charter, not even its own emblem. There was only faith in God, loyalty to the king, and a shared desire to protect pilgrims who risked their lives journeying to the holy sites. Hugo de Payens, a shrewd and far-sighted strategist, understood that achieving their goal required organization, discipline, and the support of influential figures. Therefore, he and his companions approached the Patriarch of Jerusalem, seeking his blessing and official recognition. The Patriarch, seeing the knights' devotion and understanding the urgent need to protect pilgrims from the attacks of Muslim tribes, did not refuse. He blessed their cause, providing them with weapons and armor and promising the prayers and support of the Church. This was the first step on the path to the formation of the Order of the Temple, the future Templars. However, receiving a blessing was only the beginning. Hard work lay ahead, gaining trust and recognition. It was necessary not only to protect pilgrims but also to create a system that guaranteed safety and order. Hugo de Payens, with his characteristic energy and ingenuity, undertook the organization of the order. He developed a strict code of conduct based on the Gospel commandments, demanding unconditional obedience, modesty, and chastity from the knights. Personal wealth, entertainment, and many other things that could distract from the main goal were forbidden. Thanks to their discipline and organization, the knights quickly earned respect among both pilgrims and the Christian army. Their effectiveness on the battlefield was undeniable. They became a symbol of unwavering faith and fortitude. Over time, more and more knights joined the order, wishing to dedicate their lives to the protection of the Holy Land and upholding the high moral principles laid down by Hugo de Payens. But success also harbored danger. The growing power and influence of the Templars provoked jealousy and envy among other Christian orders and some feudal lords who saw them as a threat to their own authority. Intrigue, conspiracies, and political games were just part of what awaited the order on its difficult and thorny path. However, at that moment, at the beginning of its existence, the Templars seemed unshakable, like a granite cliff standing guard over the fragile peace of the Holy Land. Their story was just beginning, and ahead of them lay both triumphs and tragic falls. But that was the future. Now, under the spring sun of Jerusalem, they were simply 9 knights united by faith and a yearning for justice. Their journey had only just begun. Later, after Hugo de Payens, along with 8 knights, took vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience before the Patriarch of Jerusalem, their order gained official status. The Temple of the Lord, which became a symbol of their order, provided not only spiritual but also practical support. Poor pilgrims found refuge within its walls, and numerous workshops and estates were established on the land belonging to the temple, providing the order with provisions and handcrafted goods. Gradually, thanks to their dedication and military prowess, the Templars won the trust not only of King Baldwin II but also of significant church figures and wealthy people in Europe. However, their path was not paved only with roses. The early years were a test of strength. The poverty in which the knights lived was real, and their military operations were often conducted with minimal resources. They faced constant danger, patrolling desolate roads, fighting bandits and robbers who terrorized pilgrims on their way to the Holy Land. Each battle, each life saved, strengthened their reputation and attracted new warriors to their ranks. The Crusades were not a monolithic movement. There was fierce competition for resources and influence among various knightly orders and the Crusaders themselves. The Templars, thanks to their discipline and efficiency, quickly occupied a dominant position, becoming an elite detachment of Crusaders. Their strategic successes on the battlefield, their mastery of defense, the use of new military technologies, led to them becoming one of the most important forces in the Holy Land. Their reputation was forged not only by victories but also by the impeccable adherence to their vows. This created a halo of sanctity around the order, attracting both warriors and wealthy benefactors. Over the years, the order built up its infrastructure. Commanderies, fortresses that served as centers for recruitment, training, and administrative management, appeared throughout Europe. These commanderies, thanks to their well-organized system, became reliable strongholds, allowing the order to maintain its influence even during times of military turmoil. The Templars developed their own economic system, establishing banks and engaging in lending. This ensured their financial independence and made them one of the wealthiest organizations of the time. The growing wealth and influence of the order did not come without problems. Envy, intrigue, and suspicion became their constant companions. Some kings and church hierarchs saw the Templars as a threat to their power. Rumors spread about secret rituals and heresy, undermining the order's authority in the eyes of the public. Despite this, the Templars continued to play a key role in the Crusades, protecting pilgrims and fighting Muslims. Their influence extended far beyond the Holy Land, affecting the politics and economy of many European countries. But the fate of their order, like the fate of all mortals, was unpredictable. Clouds of future tragic events were already appearing on the horizon, events that would forever change the history of the Knights Templar. Later, under the cover of an autumn storm, 9 knights, their faces hidden behind iron helmets, sat around a long oak table in a small chapel near Jerusalem. They were not like ordinary warriors, their eyes burned not only with martial fervor but also with an unusual erudition for that time. The chief among them was Hugo de Payens, a man stern but just, with a gaze that had witnessed countless deaths. He recounted his last conversation with King Baldwin II, his pleas to ensure the safety of pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land. The road to the Holy Sepulchre was deadly dangerous, robbers and Saracens inflicted violence mercilessly. "We are Knights of Christ," Hugo said, his voice firm despite his fatigue. "Our task is to protect pilgrims, fight injustice, serve God and the crown. We will not seek glory or wealth, our reward will be service. We will be poor but strong, faithful but fearless." One of the knights, Godfrey de Saint-Omer, asked a question that worried them all: "How are we to accomplish this? We are so few, and our enemies are countless." Hugo de Payens smiled, a brief smile, but one that conveyed unwavering faith. "We will be one," he said. "A brotherhood united not only by oath but also by a common goal. Our strength lies in discipline, in mutual support, in faith. We will live according to a strict statute, each of us will obey the elder brother. We will pray, study the Holy Scriptures, and learn military affairs to become invulnerable to enemies." Thus, in the shadow of Jerusalem's walls, an order was born that would soon shake the world. They took an oath of poverty, chastity, and obedience, an oath that each of them considered a sacred promise. They chose a white cloak with a red cross, a symbol of purity and sacrifice. They were not just knights, they were something more. They were Templars, warriors of Christ who dedicated their lives to protecting holy places and pilgrims. The following years were a time of trials and successes. The Templars, though few in number, proved their effectiveness in battles against the Saracens. Their strict statute, high discipline, and unwavering faith worked wonders. They became a reliable shield for defenseless pilgrims, and their reputation spread throughout Europe. Gradually, more and more knights joined their ranks, wishing to serve a higher cause. Thanks to their devotion and military talent, they quickly gained significant influence not only on the battlefield but also in politics. The wealth that came from the donations of pious Christians allowed them to build fortresses, develop their estates, and even establish their own bank, which became one of the most reliable in Europe. Their financial operations were extremely efficient, further enhancing their influence and grandeur. However, along with their growing power, rumors began to spread. Envy and distrust accompanied them at every step. Many condemned their wealth, luxury, and mysterious statute. Rumors of occult rituals and heresy became increasingly insistent, fueling hatred and suspicion. The time was approaching when their brilliant success would turn into a terrible tragedy. The path they had chosen turned out to be not only a path of glory and power but also a path strewn with treachery and betrayal. Dark clouds gathered over the mighty order, foreboding the downfall of the Templars. Thus, the year 1118. The consecration of the Church of the Holy Cross on Mount Moriah, in the shadow of the Wailing Wall, became not only a symbolic act but also the official birth of the Order of the Temple. 10 knights, their faces, marred by scars and sunburn, radiating unwavering determination, swore allegiance to His Holiness the Pope and the King of France. Their clothing, simple white robes, a symbol of purity and repentance, was not yet adorned with the famous Red Cross. But this was only the beginning. Golgotha, which became their place of oath, foretold a long and thorny path. The first years of the Order's existence were a test of strength. Protecting pilgrims to the holy places was a task that required not only military valor but also diplomatic skills. Muslim emirs, although recognizing the pilgrims' right to passage, often attacked them, trying to enrich themselves at the expense of defenseless travelers. The Templars responded with decisive actions, proving their effectiveness in battle. Their horsemanship skills, mastery of weapons, and exceptional organization quickly made them legendary. Rumors of their unwavering courage spread like wildfire, attracting more and more knights to their ranks from various corners of Europe. With the growing influence of the order, its structure also changed. The strict hierarchy, which was based on the values of monasticism and military discipline, allowed the Templars to act as a single command machine. The Grand Master, who stood at the head of the order, was not only a military commander but also a spiritual mentor, regulating the internal life of the order and ensuring its financial stability. This was a new model of a military religious order that became a model for many subsequent organizations. But military success was not the only factor in the Templars' flourishing. They wisely invested their conquered trophies and donations in land and trade. They quickly became rich and influential not only in the Holy Land but also throughout Europe. They possessed a vast network of castles, estates, and bank branches, allowing them to control important trade routes and accumulate vast wealth. This financial success, however, also became a source of envy and suspicion. Many kings and feudal lords saw the Templars' wealth as a threat to their influence. Dissatisfaction grew, which would later lead to a terrible tragedy. For now, however, under the red cross on the white robe, the Templars continued their mission, protecting pilgrims and expanding their influence in the world, unaware of the trials that lay ahead. Thanks to their organization and resources, they became not just a military order, but a true transnational corporation of their time, connecting East and West with their strong structure and ambitions. But could they preserve their power and wealth in the face of envy and intrigue? Time would tell. Therefore, Saint Bernard, with his tireless zeal and influence on the Pope, achieved not only the official recognition of the order but also the patronage of the Church itself. Pope Honorius II issued the bull Omni Datum Optimum, which granted the Templars numerous privileges and exemptions from all taxes and legal prosecutions, except those of the Church. This was an unprecedented act of support that laid the foundation for the order's future power. Crusaders returning from distant lands spread legends about the courage and dedication of the Templars, about their impeccable organization and unwavering faith. This created a halo of sanctity around the order, attracting not only knights but also wealthy patrons who wished to support the sacred cause of protecting the Christian East. With each passing year, the order grew and strengthened. Initially a modest monastery fortress near the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, it transformed into a sprawling network of fortresses, hotels, and estates scattered throughout Europe and the Holy Land. The Templars became not only warriors but also bankers, owners of vast landholdings and property. Their financial system, based on safe and efficient money transfers, was a breakthrough for its time. Wealthy pilgrims journeying to the Holy Land gladly entrusted their valuables and money to the reliable Knights of the Temple. Thus, the Templars gained a reputation as the most reliable bankers in Europe, surpassing even the wealthiest merchants in their operations. This financial might became both a source of strength and the cause of future problems. Envy and distrust of their accumulated wealth began to spread among European monarchs and aristocrats. Many began to see the Templars as a threat to their own power and influence. Conflicts also brewed within the order itself. The strict discipline and restrictions necessary to maintain unity and efficiency began to cause dissatisfaction among some members. The secrecy surrounding many of the order's rituals and ceremonies fueled rumors and unfounded accusations. There were talks of heresy, of worshipping pagan deities, and of secret agreements with the Saracens. These rumors, spread by envious rivals and political enemies, began to undermine trust in the Templars. The order's growing wealth and its special status, granted by the papal bull, caused concern for King Philip IV the Fair of France. The king, burdened by debt and needing significant funds for his ambitious projects, saw in the Templars a source of wealth that could be seized. He began a masterful intrigue, using to spread rumors and his own influence on the Pope to accuse the Templars of numerous crimes, including heresy, homosexuality, and treason. The arrests of leading knights, launched under the guise of an investigation, were the first step towards the destruction of the mighty order. The subsequent events, involving interrogations under torture, falsified evidence, and trials, condemned the Templars to the tragic end of their glorious history. But for now, at the beginning of the 14th century, this was just a shadow of the future. The order continued to flourish, unaware of the threat lurking in the heart of Europe. Thus, the year 1118. 9 knights, among them the noble Hugo de Payens, knelt before the Patriarch of Jerusalem. Their humble vow, spoken under the shadow of sacred walls, forever changed the course of history. They took an oath of poverty, chastity, and boundless dedication to the protection of pilgrims journeying to the Holy Land. Gradually, from meager beginnings, the Order of the Temple of Solomon, or, as they were later called, the Templars, began to grow in strength and influence. Their black mantle with a white cross became a symbol of hope and protection for those who traveled the dangerous roads of Palestine. At first, their base was modest, a small house near the Temple Mount, resembling a monastery more than a mighty outpost. But the Templars' determination, their combat skills, and unwavering faith quickly attracted the attention of both ordinary people and powerful rulers. Donations poured down upon them like hail: money, land, horses, weapons. The rapidly growing order attracted the best warriors of Europe, drawn not only by religious zeal but also by opportunities for career advancement and wealth. After all, the Templars not only protected pilgrims but also participated in military campaigns, demonstrating remarkable military strategy and tactics. The Templars' military prowess became legendary. Their discipline, organization, and ability to use advanced military technologies made them an elite military force. Thanks to their influence and wealth, they began to build fortresses and hospitals throughout the Holy Land, transforming them into impregnable fortresses and safe havens. Thanks to their perfect logistics and quick response to threats, the Templars became a reliable shield for the Christian kingdom of Jerusalem. However, with the growth of the Templars' influence, intrigues also grew. Envy and suspicion pursued them from all sides. Other military orders, such as the Hospitallers, saw them as competitors. And some feudal lords feared their growing power and wealth, which threatened to disrupt the existing order of things. Rumors of secret rituals and heretical teachings spread like a virus, fueled by the Templars' enemies and envious rivals. Added to this was the complex political situation in the Near East. The Crusades gradually lost their initial zeal, and Muslim rulers again strengthened their positions. The Templars were at the center of this military-political maelstrom, becoming victims of intrigue and manipulation. Their wealth and influence attracted the attention not only of their open enemies but also of hidden intriguers who waited for a favorable moment to strike a fatal blow. The future of the Order of the Temple of Solomon hung by a thread, depending on the political conjuncture and the Templars' ability to withstand the conspiracies and intrigues woven in the shadows. They faced not only the threat from external enemies but also internal discord that threatened to split them from within. Thus, in the spring of 1118, under the scorching sun of Palestine, 24 knights, led by Hugo de Payens and Geoffrey de Saint-Omer, took vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. Their tent, pitched near Jerusalem, became a symbol of a new era, the era of the Templars, Knights of Christ who, unlike other military orders, were to focus not only on military actions but also on protecting pilgrims traveling to the holy places. The first years were difficult. Money was catastrophically lacking, and there were enough enemies, both among the Muslims and among envious Frankish feudal lords. However, dedication to the cause and a reputation for desperate but just warriors quickly won the trust of both ordinary people and the nobility. King Baldwin II, seeing in the Templars reliable defenders of his kingdom, gave them his patronage and a residence located near the Temple of the Holy Sepulchre. This became a decisive factor in their further development. The name Templars, which later firmly established itself, comes from this proximity to the temple. With the royal blessing, the first donations began to appear: land, money, weapons. The Templars' wealth grew exponentially, due not only to military victories but also to the outstanding organizational abilities of their masters. The system of internal organization was exemplary for that time. A strict hierarchy, a clear distribution of job responsibilities, an efficient system for collecting and distributing funds allowed the Templars not only to maintain a large army of knights but also to build fortresses, hospitals, and finance various charitable projects. They became some of the first bankers in Europe, providing safe storage of funds and transportation of currency across the continent. This financial activity brought them even more wealth and influence. The Templars built their own infrastructure, a network of fortresses throughout the Holy Land, which became a reliable protection for pilgrims and Christian possessions. However, the rise of the Templars was accompanied by the growth of ill-wishers. Envy from other orders, intrigues in royal courts, slander, and rumors, all this created an atmosphere of tension and danger around the Templars. Their wealth became a motive for many greedy for easy gain, and their influence, a reason for envy and fear among the powerful of this world. The number of accusations of heresy, conspiracy against the church and kings increased, although many of them were only fruitful fabricated slanders spread by their enemies. Despite this, the Templars continued their mission, bravely defending the Holy Land and serving God. Their discipline and unity were legendary. They were not just knights, but brothers in arms and faith, bound by strong ties of oath and common service. But on the horizon, the shadow of future tragic events was already looming, which would end the story of this great order, leaving behind many legends and mysteries. The story of the Templars was just beginning its turbulent journey, full of both heroic deeds and sinister intrigues. Thus, the year 1118. Under the scorching sun of Palestine, amidst the broken stones and dust that had covered the sacred land for centuries, Hugo de Payens, along with 9 knights, swore allegiance to the Christian kingdom of Jerusalem and the poor pilgrims who risked their lives journeying to the holy places. Their order, initially a modest group of knights housed in an old, ruined mosque on the Temple Mount, was taking shape like granite, sculpted by wind and rain. It was not just a military structure, it was strict asceticism multiplied by boundless devotion to the idea. The early years were difficult. Poverty, constant clashes with Saracens, intrigues within the Jerusalem kingdom itself, all this tested their faith and resilience. But Hugo de Payens, a strong-willed and prudent man, knew how to unite his people. He was not only a brilliant strategist but also a skilled diplomat, able to gain support among both the nobility and ordinary people. Legends circulated about his wisdom, and his justice inspired those around him. Over time, more and more knights joined the order, captivated by the idea of protecting pilgrims and holy places. Wealth, initially absent, began to flow from various sources: donations, land, conquests. But this wealth did not corrupt the Templars. They carefully controlled their finances, creating a sprawling banking system that helped them efficiently manage their property. The order's treasury, filled with gold, became a symbol of their power and influence. However, the growing influence of the Templars did not come without negative consequences. Envy and suspicion from other orders and feudal lords became constant companions of their activities. Rumors began to spread about secret rituals, black magic, and even heresy. Some historians try to explain this attitude towards the order by its exceptional organization and independence from papal authority, which, to a certain extent, allowed the order to function as an independent state within a state. Hugo de Payens, understanding the danger of the situation, made every effort to maintain harmony and stability within the order, as well as to build trust with the Pope and kings. He managed to achieve the recognition of the order at the highest level, obtaining privileges and protection from Pope Innocent II. This step was crucial for the survival of the order, as it provided it with protection from numerous enemies. But even this did not solve all the problems. Internal disagreements, the ambitions of individual Templars, and the constant threat from the Muslims, all this created tension and danger. The history of the Order of the Templars was just beginning its long and full journey, full of both triumphs and tragic events that would forever remain recorded in the annals of history. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: the Order of the Templars was a force to be reckoned with. Their influence extended far beyond the Holy Lands, and their name was surrounded by both honor and fear. Thus, the year 1118. Golgotha, consecrated by the blood of Christ, filled the air with the fragrance of myrrh and terror simultaneously. For a year, 9 knights, led by Hugo de Payens, had vowed to serve God and protect pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land. Their camp, modest and dilapidated, resembled a dormitory more than a fortress. But in the hearts of these men burned a faith, unshakable as a rock in the desert. They had already tasted blood and death, protecting the defenseless, and understood that their path would be thorny. Only one thing remained: to gain strength and authority. The first successes did not come easily. The weapons were old, the horses were exhausted, and the number of enemies was countless. The Saracens, with their cunning in numbers, posed a constant threat. But the knights, united by faith and a common purpose, inspired each other to feats. They did not just fight for land, they fought for an idea: for the right to freely worship Christ. With each victory, however small, their fame spread, attracting new, brave, and devoted knights to their ranks. The King of Jerusalem, Baldwin II, saw their potential, saw in their discipline and dedication what his army lacked. He gave them lodgings in the wing of the Church of the Resurrection of Christ, which became the reason for their future name, Templars, that is, Temple Knights. This was a symbolic blessing that gave them official status and the support of the crown. However, such patronage also created new difficulties. Other knightly orders, envious of their growing influence, began to weave intrigues, trying to sow discord among them. However, the Templars proved to be more united than one might have expected. They developed a strict code of conduct that regulated all aspects of their lives, from combat training to everyday communication. This was not just a military order, it was a religious community where spirituality and discipline were inextricably linked. Their life was a sacred feat, every moment dedicated to serving God and protecting the Holy Land. With each passing year, their influence grew. They became not only a military force but also a powerful financial organization. Pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land entrusted them with their treasures, knowing that they would be safe. This created the basis for the development of their banking system, which became so efficient that in a short time, the Templars amassed enormous capital. This capital enabled them to build fortresses, arm the army, and thereby increase their influence on the political arena of Europe. But such might inevitably attracted the attention of not only allies but also envious enemies. The shadows of intrigue began to lengthen, threatening the loss of what they had fought for so many years. The path of the Templars, paved with faith and blood, was only just beginning to gain momentum. Many more trials awaited them, but their spirit remained unbroken. History will yet write many pages about their journey, and each one will be filled with dramatic twists and unexpected events. Later, after a funeral procession that wound its way through the stony streets of Jerusalem, the murmur of the crowd gradually subsided. Hugo de Payens, a man with a face weathered by the winds and trials of the Holy Land, found himself in a modest cell, contemplating the future. Behind him lay the death of King Baldwin II, and before him, the lofty and dangerous mission of protecting pilgrims traveling to the holy places. He was not a knightly leader, he did not have a large army, but he had something far more valuable: fervent faith and loyal companions united by a common goal. 9 knights, true knights of Christ, gathered around him, their hearts burning with the desire to protect the road to the Holy Sepulchre. They vowed poverty, chastity, and obedience, laying the foundation for a new knightly order that would later become legend, the Order of the Temple of Solomon, or the Templars. Their cell, initially modest and cramped, eventually transformed into a center that attracted both devout pilgrims and those seeking refuge and protection. Tales of the courage and devotion of the new knights quickly spread across Europe. Many wished to join their noble undertaking. Donations began to flow to the order from kings, aristocrats, and ordinary people, believers in the justice of their mission. Hugo de Payens, initially a humble knight, became an outstanding leader who skillfully guided the development of the order, winning trust and respect. Thanks to their military experience and rigorous training regimen, the Templars quickly became one of the most effective military formations in the Holy Land. Their military tactics, developed on the basis of combat experience, were striking in their effectiveness. They were distinguished by discipline, speed, and coordinated action. Their black cloaks with a white cross, reminiscent of humility and devotion, became a symbol of hope and protection for pilgrims. However, the success and wealth that accumulated in the order gave rise to envy and intrigues on the part of other knightly orders and political forces. Intrigues often took on a hidden character, spreading in the form of slander and intrigue. Some kings and feudal lords saw in the growing influence of the Templars a threat to their system of power. The support of the Pope and the King of France helped the order stay afloat, but enemies constantly sought opportunities to weaken its position. With the development of the order, its infrastructure also expanded. The Templars built fortresses, hospitals, and warehouses, creating a branched network throughout Europe, which helped to control cash flows and ensure the safety of their activities. Thanks to their wealth and influence, the order became an influential player on the world stage, becoming involved in the resolution of major political issues. But this very power became the cause of new threats and challenges that loomed over the order with the inevitability of an approaching storm. The future of the Templars remained uncertain, full of both hopes and dangers. Their path was just beginning, and fate had many more trials in store for them.